Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. So next month we've supposedly got this Jake Paul-Anthony Joshua fight taking place. I suspect it will actually happen, but you never know. When Jake Paul is involved, it might be an elaborate publicity stunt. You can never completely rule something like that out. But assuming it goes ahead, the narrative that most people are running with is that AJ needs to knock Jake Paul out in a round or two. If he doesn't, it will be a total disaster for him from a PR perspective and a legacy perspective, and it'll be seen as pretty much the same as a loss. And so AJ needs to go out there all guns blazing from the opening bell to try and take this guy out as quickly as possible. Here's why I totally disagree with that narrative. You see, Anthony Joshua has never been a fighter that thrives on pressure. His best performances, in my opinion, have come when he's been most relaxed, when there's been a bit less pressure on him to perform. He doesn't appear to handle the pressure of big occasions and big events as well as some of his contemporaries. And I think that's the reason that Anthony Joshua was looking to have an 8-rounder before the end of the year in the first place. He was willing to fight on an undercard just to escape the pressure and be able to have a fight where the spotlight wasn't on him as intensely. So for a guy like that, the last thing he needs to be doing against Jake Paul or any opponent is feeling that he needs to go out there and knock him out early. That's only going to make him feel anxious and is going to make him force his punches, force his shots, try and force a knockout. And one of the first things they ever teach you in boxing is when you go looking for a knockout, that's when it won't come. You have to just get into your boxing flow, and the opportunities to score the knockout punch will present themselves organically. Now, AJ, in my view, needs to go in there and box his normal fight. He shouldn't look at Jake Paul as being a YouTuber, a novice, or anything like that. He should go in there and look at him the same way he looked at Otto Wallen, the same way he looked at Robert Helenius, Jermaine Franklin, etc. He needs to be just as careful defensively, just as sensible, and just as selective with his offense. He needs to pay Jake Paul that type of respect, despite the fact that Jake Paul is a novice. Because, as I say, Anthony Joshua doesn't handle pressure well, or at least not as well as some of his contemporaries. So he needs to forget about people saying he needs to knock Jake Paul out in a couple of rounds or it's a disaster. Forget about all that. Concentrate on what you want to get out of this situation. Obviously, part of it is a load of money. Well, that's guaranteed if the fight goes ahead, pretty much. But the other part of it, I'm sure, is to shake the rust off and have a dominant win against a less than stellar opponent. So I'm going to enlighten some people here, or perhaps jog other people's memories. James Toney is universally recognized as a great fighter. Middleweight champion, super middleweight champion, cruiserweight champion, eventually heavyweight champion, but the result of his fight against John Ruiz was reversed or overturned because of the fact he failed a PED test, James Toney. That notwithstanding, as I say, universally regarded as a great fighter. Well, what some of you may not know, or may have forgotten if you lived through the James Toney era, is that many fighters back in the 90s and the 80s and earlier than that, who were world champions, in between title defenses, would have stay busy fights, non-title bouts, against random opposition. And for the most part, they didn't go out there trying to blast this random opposition out in a round or two. They didn't feel as though it was a huge failure and the same as a loss if they didn't blast out one of these opponents who were often journeymen that they were fighting in stay busy fights. They were just trying to stay in the boxing flow and also allow fans from other parts of the country, particularly if they were fighters from the United States, to see them who wouldn't normally get to see them because they maybe didn't have the money to attend some of their bigger fights. So here is James Toney's record. You can see his box record at the top. If we scroll down to 1993, James Toney, we can count them here, had a total of 7 fights in 1993, all while he was IBF super middleweight champion. So he beats Iran Barkley in February of that year. You can see there, IBF super middleweight title. Then he has a series of non-title fights. One in March, one in April, one in June, one in July, and one in August. Look at the opposition. Look at the records. This guy, Gavona Chavez, 9-3-1. Ricky Thomas, 11-9-1. Glenn Thomas, 24-1. That's a better record. Danny Garcia, it's not the Danny Garcia you guys know. It's not the 140 pounder, 147 pounder. No. This is a Danny Garcia of a different era. 25-10. Larry Prather, 10-10. These were the people that James Toney was fighting in 1993 after he beat Aaron Barkley for the IBF World Super Middleweight title. He had a series of non-title bouts where he was just staying busy before his defense against Tony Thornton, which was in October of that year. And if you look at the results, the 9-3 guy who he fought went 9 rounds with him. The 11-9 guy went 10 rounds with him nearly. The 25-10 guy went 6 rounds. The 10-10 guy went 10 rounds with the great James Toney in his prime. Yeah, James Toney used to balloon up in weight, yo-yo in weight and whatnot, and for some of these fights he was pretty heavy coming in. But the point I'm making is, James Toney didn't feel in any kind of rush. He didn't feel any sort of pressure when he was in against these journeyman types in between world title fights to be knocking them out early. No, you go in there thinking you need to knock somebody out early because they're nowhere near your level. That's when you end up not knocking them out early and having more trouble than you bargained for. That's when you start making mistakes. The other guy can counter, and because you haven't knocked him out in a couple of rounds now, the anxiety starts building up in you. You start feeling embarrassed, and the opponent can take advantage of that. So Anthony Joshua needs to completely disregard all of this talk that he needs to knock Jake Paul out in a round or 2. Some of this talk is even coming from his own fans. I think they're very misguided in saying that he needs to do that. Disregard all of it, all that noise, and in fact, he should accept the possibility and have already played it through in his mind that this fight goes 8 rounds. He should have accepted that in his mind already. Not because he wants it to go 8 rounds, but because in accepting that it could go 8 rounds, that's a real possibility, he'll be more relaxed in the ring. He won't feel so rushed. Again, you have to understand the psychology of every individual fighter. And Anthony Joshua is a bit more on the anxious side than, as I say, some of his contemporaries. And feeling under pressure to knock Jake Paul out in a couple of rounds is only going to exacerbate that anxiety. So he needs to forget about all that noise in his head, just go in there and look at it as a sharpening his tools, stay busy fight, or even a sparring session. That's the way he needs to look at it. The priority is win the fight. Don't mind about scoring a spectacular knockout early. Forget about, or even the stuff coming from Eddie Hearn, forget about all that. The priority is win the fight. You'll get the bag. You can worry about looking good next time. You can worry about the spectacular KO next time. You don't need to worry about it in this fight. There isn't enough to gain here for Anthony Joshua to be taking risks injuring himself, risks getting frustrated and allowing Jake Paul to maybe steal the play away from him a little bit, or a less likely scenario, taking risks whereby you could get hurt and get beat. He needs to play it cool, forget about all the noise, forget about all the expectations, and satisfy himself, not satisfy Jake Paul. Pause. When Luke Partridge failed to knock out Francis Ngannou in a couple of rounds, was it the end of his career? Did it destroy him because he couldn't get rid of Francis Ngannou? Not at all. He still went on to fight for undisputed against Usyk twice. So in what way is it going to hamper AJ if we were to go in there and maybe go, 6, 7, or the full 8 rounds against Jake Paul? It'll be just a temporary bit of criticism. As long as he wins, it'll be a temporary bit of criticism, which he can easily erase in his next fight if it's against Luke Partridge and he goes in there and performs well or wins. Save the risk-taking for bigger fights when it's necessary. This is a fight which he should be able to win at a canter, behind his jab, with his height, reach, punch selection, experience, and what have you. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I will leave it there this time. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high-quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.